whoever wants to stay. So
Hello.
brilliant, brilliant. So hello, Nerena. Hello, where did you go?
Hi,
There you are.
Nerena.
Hi,
There you are.
everyone. If
Hello,
we
hello. Yeah.
name right, yeah.
Say
Okay.
again, Beena.
I was just saying that if we are pronouncing name right, Nerena, Nerena,
Yes, it's Nerena.
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 Yeah.
Ah, brilliant, brilliant,
Right.
brilliant. Ah,
So you
so what we were doing. Oh, go ahead, Beena. Go ahead, go ahead. Sorry, I'm excited. So go ahead.
I was just saying, I was just appreciating her name. It's a beautiful name. So that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
That's very kind of you. And
yeah.
we have a very
Ah,
similar ending sound to our name, Beena and
yes,
Nerena.
and
It flows very
Donna,
nicely.
yes,
And Donna.
and Susanna, but okay, we'll just call her Sue, and Robin. Oh, Robin and Sue dropped off. All right, so brilliant. Also though, what is a Nerena?
So a Nerena is a human being uh, encompassing a higher being enjoying an experience on this
Ah,
planet.
ah,
Sorry, I'm just
well, so in other words, if you say Nerina is a being within another being, that would be your art is the art of beingness and double beingness, the outer and the inner. Because a wright is somebody who's an artisan, a craftsman, right?
I
Like
would
a
love
shipwright
to.
is somebody who builds ships. So if you're an arena wright, you are somebody who is building and crafting arenas.
Well, just the one at the moment, but we'll see how we
Ah.
go with that. I love
Well, you said
your
the
expansion
internal
of that, Sil. That's great.
right, right.
Thank
Well, I
you.
mean, that's your name. It's right. It means a crafter, a builder. But then if you, and that's why I asked you, what is an arena? It could have been something else. But you said it's a human, it's a being, it's a moreness. In other words, that what you said, right? If I paraphrase you slightly.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah. So you are
very
a
good.
creator, a builder, a crafter of moreness, particularly personal, individual, arena moreness. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. I love the
I
way you've
mean,
described that. I almost feel like
um,
I don't need to say very much at all. You just get it.
it, we have fun. We have fun doing that. It's a particular skill we actually deliberately practice to encapsulate and to incorporate and to fractalize a conception. So I just did it very quickly there because your name was just so perfect for this. But it just what I'm taking is, it's not just idle what I'm doing. I'm also going by, your posts and comments in the group. So, this, when you said that, you're just laying it open there for me to take what's already there and just to condense it and to put it out to you in the form of question to say, yes, this is what you're doing. Because now I took it from your name, but it does represent you more in what you do, who you are, where you're coming from. So just a tight way to get to know you really, really quickly, right? And to get that feedback confirmation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in answering the question, I was momentarily tempted to pause and reflect and think about an answer, and I let go of that
Excellent.
instinct, and I just
Excellent.
let myself answer from the heart.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And
Yes.
I feel more satisfied with that than anything I could have thought
Ah,
about.
brilliant. Yes. 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 Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you for
Yeah.
welcoming me
Oh,
and
really a
giving me
pleasure.
some
Really a
time
pleasure.
today.
A pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So just to fill you in what we were doing a little bit there, that was a bonus a bonus class that we're doing in as part of Way of Impeccability, and particularly it's really part of the Moreness project. The Moreness project, like the master class, we don't care for that term. Maybe we'll call it wizard class. We replace wizard master with wizard, but anyway, we call it our Moreness project. So and Jocelyn is doing Way of Impeccability, the base program, and then he in his what he does, which is qigong, and a particular adaptation for qigong. It's called BAM, breath work and application. And what was the M for again? I always forget the M. Um, dang it, dang it.
Movement,
Anyway, it'll come to
movement,
me. Movement,
Movement.
of course,
I was
because we did the
thinking that
movement.
as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So breathwork application and movement. So it just it's a particular representation of qigong. So he is sharing this with us and training us in this. So and again, it's like an extension of the Way of Impeccability Moreness project as well. Just a nice bonus. You just got the tail end of it, which is nice, just to feel the energy, which is pretty cool. So it's exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. You probably saw Jocelyn's post in the group too.
I did, and I was very curious. I'm always curious, and I indulge my
Yeah.
curiosity and embrace it now,
Ah,
because it was something that was restricted as a child.
ah, wow, that's very revealing right there. We like that. We like that.
Well, I'm an
Implications.
open book, so
Ah, brilliant. Well, I just will share something. So we play a really cool game called Name That App. And when we use app here, we don't mean your phone or computer sense. We mean app as in application, as in everything is application without applying your philosophy, your intent, your learning. If you don't apply it as in that physical application, you're just wasting your time. You can't just have memory knowledge, which we see so much of. There has to be incorporated into new habits, new feelings, new beliefs, new understandings, new ways of being, new ethics, etc. This is very cool. So that's what we're talking about application. Now, part of our Way of Impeccability too, we have what we a dictionary of power, which is all of your power conceptions, which are all these new applications. Like obviously impeccability would be there, and integrity would be there, trusting without trusting, capital T trust, etc., etc. So implication is one of them, to pay attention to implication. So that's when you said that, your curiosity was somewhat squelched as a child, the implications, and now you're releasing that. There's a ton of implications that go with that.
oh yes,
Not just that, okay, that's typical for many children, but that you are conscious and aware of it, and you are deliberately now making the effort to satiate that impeccability which was suppressed. So the implication in what you said is the deliberateness and the conscious awareness. Yes.
yes, and actually that ties in very nicely with the post that you put up earlier about self-pity, and I think it was Georgiana who commented,
Yes.
and I just recently replied
Oh,
to her.
Georgianne. Yeah.
Georgianne, sorry.
All right.
And what you're saying there just really resonated with that point about making conscious choice.
Mm.
So I could have lived, or I should say, I could have continued to live in a state of self-pity and feeling like a victim, but I
Mhm.
made the conscious choice when I realized that I am an adult, I am living my life, I do not need anyone's approval or permission to take care of myself and to be true to myself. And when I realized that all of these choices were mine, suddenly the whole world became a playground.
Yes. And what led to that awareness, that realization, that choice, if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm adding a bit here, that
Mhm.
choice, that you have choice and the choice to choose. Somewhere along the line, that's what happened, if I'm understanding you correctly. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. So it was an interesting journey. I've come up with this phrase recently, and I can't stop myself from using it quite a lot now. But I feel like something happened all of a sudden over a long period of time. If you know,
Ah, okay. Okay. So it was gradual, incremental.
gradual, but then it's like everything just dropped from the consciousness into the subconscious.
Ah, brilliant, brilliant. So little by little led to leaps and bounds, and then suddenly you had a blowout, and then you had the explosion. Ah, very
I
cool.
suppose it's that constant drip of water that wears away the
Yeah,
rock.
yeah, and then suddenly it gave way. Wow. So you said you had a drop from the conscious into the
Mm.
subconscious. Yeah. Is it just me, or Donna, Beena? Are you guys keen to hear more about that? Just want to make sure I'm
Is
not just the
Donna
only one
there?
indulging my curiosity. That Donna's
Definitely.
probably there too. She just
Uh,
forgot that she's on mute, probably.
Okay, no, Nerena, this is something really interesting because some sub some idea from astrology point of view that I have Mercury quite dominant in my chart. So, and Mercury is about communication and curiosity and all that.
Disclaimer,
And
not that we're into astrology, just to be clear here, but anyway.
just I'm saying that
I'm,
that
I'm open to all possibilities. I dismiss none.
Yeah,
for
Beena
fun.
will explain a little later. Yeah.
that
Beena's
was
a reluctant astrologer.
everybody who is a bit of knowledge of who has a bit of knowledge of astrology, they say, oh, because you are this, so that means that you are a very curious one. And I shared with Sil that no, actually I'm not, because I have deliberately diverted my curiosity into different things in my childhood also. So I was a very curious one, self-acclaimed detective, and used love to spy on other people and all these things. And then I choose to not get connected to all those things and divert my curiosity to learning and growth and all that. So now I really don't have anything to be curious about people and their businesses. But no, now I have more interesting things to. So yes, we can absolutely divert our curiosity, and we can channel it in a very positive manner. I am completely understanding what your point is. Yes,
Thank
I
you.
love
And I really resonate. That really resonates with me, because I had this kind of curiosity as a child, and I was obsessed with Nancy Drew books. I read all of them multiple times,
Interesting.
and my friends used to call me that because they never saw me without one of her books in my hand. And
Wow.
a friend and I at one point decided we would do a little bit of detective work, and of course, being children and being completely ignorant of adult things, we were formulating ideas about the adults around us, and we had little secret notebooks that we would keep notes in. And my friend got a little carried away with it and started to get quite anxious about what story we were formulating, whereas I was aware that we were just making our own detective story. She took it seriously and took it to her mum, who then was very, very upset by what she saw, and put an end to our friendship, actually. So that was quite damaging to the curiosity for me, because what I understood then was being curious was unwelcome.
Interesting.
But now coming back
that
to
association,
choice,
right?
sorry,
Makes
like just what
Okay.
Beena was saying was you can choose what to be curious about.
Yeah.
And
If you're curious,
if we've been encouraged correctly as children with the right kind of explanation from the adults, rather than punitively just stopping us, we might have developed and honed that curiosity in a more healthy way. But you know, it is what it is. I have the choice of doing it now, and so I choose.
Nice. Beena, did you have something? Because I wanted to just name that app. So if they'd applied association management, the parents, in other words, if they'd reassociated and associated your curiosity appropriately rather than nixing it, if they'd applied, for us, it's one of our power conceptions, association management. It's incredibly powerful. And also for you now, you can apply association management to reassociate, which you've probably mostly done already, to reassociate your curiosity with the power, with the positive, with an awesome. Very powerful.
That's cool. I just love the way you use words. That's fascinating. Creating
talking about words. So
management.
by the way, Beena, and also Nerena, it wasn't spying back then, right? It was intimate observation. Not spy, right?
Indeed.
Just to euphemize it a little bit. You are practicing intimate observation, not spying. Right?
No, I was really fascinated by the idea I actually got from Hollywood movies, that I just want to be a detective. These were tasks for me, and I was on mission. So that was something. It was not only just the curiosity, but also to be something, wanna be, and all these things. Nerena, what you shared, I understand and I resonate with that how adults react to that curiosity, because it's like a double whammy, that you are intelligent, you're observant, and you have a curiosity. Oh my God, a deadly combination.
Thank you. It sounds like we're a force to be reckoned with collectively, Beena.
Yes. Yes, yes. We love collaboration. You know, one plus one plus one plus one equal
Oh,
more.
you just said
That's our definition of
my
collaboration.
magic word is collaboration. My other magic
We
word is
love it. Love it.
communication.
Yes. Yes. So for us, those are both capital C terms. So anything that goes in our dictionary of power gets capitalized, and it's capital C communication, capital C collaboration. These are huge because it's different. There's a moreness to that. There's that implied extended moreness and connectivity. They're all connected, right? Without capital C communication, capital C collaboration just becomes almost impossible. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very powerful. Let me ask Donna a question here. So Donna, since we're talking about detectives, how it does from our point of view, because we have Detective Sergeant Donna over there. So just from that connectivity, the life detective, if we're playing Name That App, right? Because it's another one of our power conceptions, is the life detective. How does that fit into things? What is life detective? Just if you can give us a little bit on that, please, Donna. At least for you.
Say
Donna?
I would say from my perspective, connecting it directly to curiosity is what I came up for. And basically anything that you're experiencing is an opportunity to look at things from a variety of perspectives. And I've really garnered a keen understanding of that. And when you stay open with the curiosity, things naturally flow from a variety of perspectives. So that innately creates an opportunity to be a life detective and to connect all the dots and to see all the possibilities and to offer that investigation as magical.
Mm-hmm. So when you in like we were talking about in on Saturday and Friday, right, Donna? You were talking about just the in like a work environment and how you perceive typically ordinary things like the IT guy coming by. But you didn't just hear what he said as an IT thing. You heard what he said as a life detective, right? And then when you heard that from your life detective point of view, you transformed what he said. Yes. I'm
It
keen to hear a bit
happened
more about that.
it happened automatically. It was more of a representation of what was going on internally, and it was just being manifested in the physical externally as something that was a message specifically for me that I could apply and kind of reflect on, and that definitely associated with what it was going on internally.
Yeah. So your process as a life detective was to view your external physicality, not in the ordinary way, but to see it through an abstract lens, through a symbolic lens, through a metaphoric lens. And then you didn't just stop there. You related it to what was particularly pertinent and relevant inside you. And that connectivity led to, more, wow. And then you also saw it as the reverse, if I understand you correctly, right, Donna? You saw
Right.
what was going on inside. You saw external visual represent, or at least physical representation. But again, through that abstract life detective viewpoint, right? To be able to make sense of it from that symbolic, metaphoric way. And you got so much more out of it. Otherwise, it could have just been an ordinary thing, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
I've just had a big
Magical stuff.
moment of realization while being in this zone of genius with all of you, and I'm just I'm almost speechless when I realize I've only been in your presence for a few minutes. But as we were talking about, playing detective when we were children and being life detectives, I realized that one of the big blocks for me was I had been stopped in my process of becoming a detective. So what I'd been doing before was gathering knowledge, but I hadn't moved on to the next step of sorting and deciphering and creating.
Yes.
And now
Yes.
I realize this is a pattern that I've carried through my whole life, is that I've been amassing knowledge in the conscious and not
Yes.
allowing it to drop into the subconscious.
Exactly. 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 what you've just said is the basis that underlies every single thing that we do. Donna, Beena, we facilitate way of impeccability. So this is the key to, we don't call it teaching or anything like that. No, we don't even call it life coaching. We just facilitate. In other words, we make the obvious obvious. And if you think about a life detective, isn't that really what they do? They are uncovering the obvious and they make it obvious. Now you say, but obvious. It's like, well, it's the but problem is the obvious isn't obvious until it's obvious. It
Well,
wasn't.
exactly. It
Oh,
was
it wasn't
always there, but
right.
you couldn't see it.
Exactly. It wasn't obvious the moment before it became obvious. It was not obvious. So this is our skill, is to make the obvious obvious, and to have this translation mechanism and have the tools to see things differently. That's the real trick of the life detective. Any of your fabulous detective shows, probably one of my longtime favorites is Columbo. It's a bit old now, but because Columbo really represents, he was very impeccable, Columbo, and he was particularly humble. But if you watch him really, really closely, he is super strategic. His humility is part of his strategy, right? So it's not there's a lot in Columbo, but the point is that he's looking at matters differently to where everybody else does,
Mm.
because he's not just seeing the physical, he's also seeing the abstract. And one of Columbo's special skills was to always see the implications.
Mm.
I
I
always paid
understand.
attention to implications, right? Now, what I really like about Columbo is that he always checked things as well. So part of Way of Impeccability, the program, is self-testing, self-proving to get to ownership. And then we go even one step after that. We have actually self-proof to sign off for that last part. Our inner bureaucrats, we like to call them, they need to sign off with that actual demonstration. Not just you believe you know it, you have to actually prove to yourself that you know, so that you can really, really take it in. Because it's no point in knowing stuff. You have to feel it. It has to be in your body. So
Mm.
our whole process, that application that I was talking about, it has to be incorporated, it has to be physical. Otherwise, you get stuck in that memory, knowledge, understanding. And this is a
Mm.
massive, massive, massive trap. But from
And
a
becoming
detective point of
with
view,
the
you have to check it out. Yeah.
becoming overly concerned with the detail. Now, I had a fine art training, um, and so I try to think of it sometimes in those terms. Is that you need to observe the negative space as well, the space around
Correct.
things,
Correct.
and
Yes.
you
Yes.
also have to
Yes.
take a step back regularly for perspective.
Yes. 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 How does that relate from a capital H hearing point of view, Donna? I'm cross purposing here now, so you'll see now it will come out. That negative space.
The negative space just can be used as space alone. It doesn't really, for my process, for me anyway, the negativity or the positivity
Yeah.
as far as it
Yeah.
relates to the space is irrelevant. It's the hearing and the energy, and you can almost interpret beyond the words if
Yes.
you get in that space.
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting
Yes.
perspective because
Yes.
I wasn't hearing negative in the connotation of negative versus positive. I was using it in the terminology used in
Yeah.
my learning as an artist, where negative space was merely the absence of an object.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Which is brilliant.
Ah,
And
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. Same
Yeah.
thing could
And
apply. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
indeed. But this has taken
Yes.
yeah.
another level,
Yeah.
which I really enjoy. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah. The concept of
My
negative
mind does
space.
that automatically.
Yeah. Yeah. The concept of negative space is particularly well used by musicians. For a musician, negative space is about
Yeah.
silence. Right.
Yes.
Right. So, and they employ this. And you ask any composer, and they will tell you that I'm not only arranging notes, I'm arranging silences. Right? And artists too, the really good ones, they will tell you that I'm also arranging negative space. You have to use the negative space. Now, in one of our Moreness project programs, it's called Helping and Hearing. Hearing and helping actually, but it's about not really helping, it's about assisting. We actually get away from that term of helping, and we do so without having content. So it's wisdomless helping. So what? How can you help if you don't know anything? This is the biggest hurdle that most people who want to help, and especially coaches, have to get out of. You don't need to know anything whatsoever. You just simply have to have the tools to be able to hear someone properly, and then to be able to make the obvious obvious and other things. We don't have to have any content. You just have to pay attention to what's going on with the other person. And this is what capital H hearing is. And in the context of negative space, we aren't hearing just what they're saying. We're hearing what they're not saying.
Mm. And
First thing,
actually,
right?
just
That's
this
very important.
interaction now, which has taken just 5 minutes, I am now willing to release from my vocabulary the term negative space, because it is
There you
just
go.
space.
Exactly.
So thank you for
Exactly.
that.
It's just alter, right. And again, negative space automatically implies there's a positive. And that in
Mm.
now it implies a duality. We don't like dualities. Why? Because dualities, you end up living in a gray world of black and white. Well, already you got three things, not two. But still, you're still limited. And that's it. That's where people live, in those gray worlds, because they have black
Mm.
and white mindsets. Where the hell did all the glorious colors go? We want to live in those glorious color worlds, right? So this is
And just what you're saying about black and white as well. Within that, there is a negative and positive connotation.
exactly. But we think in color. So
Mm.
where's the positive and the negative in color? They're all glorious. You need them all. They're all magic. You can't take one of the colors away from the rainbow, for crikey's sake. It just makes no sense. So it's a whole different way of thinking. And again, when we looked at this capital H hearing, to not just hear what somebody says and to hear what they don't say, we also want to hear beyond what they are saying.
Mm.
Extra, we want to hear the implications of what they were saying, right? We are hearing what they would like to say but can't say. So many different colors. Once you start opening that, it's part of one of our absolute core conceptions for wave ability, which is perspective shifting. We don't want to just perspective shift to one more perspective. No, we want to shift to as many as possible. This is it, or as many as necessary. Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. But to get back to the life detective, it's really cool way to look at this, and we are detecting life itself
Mm.
as our
Wow.
conception of life detective, right? We are
Sorry, I'll
detecting
be
life
with you
itself.
in a
No problem, no problem. Go ahead.
Sorry, I heard a knock on the door and it was just my husband offering me a cup of tea.
Brilliant. So tell hubby he's a star and he gets maximum hubby points there. So very cool for him. Very good.
He is, and he is my choice, and my name is from him. So Wright is my married name. So
Very
that
good.
was my choice, and that name was my choice, and it was a conscious
Wow.
decision not to
Wow.
retain my name from
Yeah.
before because it did not
Yeah.
resonate with me.
Yeah.
And he bought me a mug that says Mrs. Always Right.
Wow. Brilliant. Wow. I like that. And again, if you think of right in the context that I had it as in constructor, creator, right? This is you're always creating, you always growing, you're always more. Yeah.
And
Then
this
if you
space is
combine
just
that
wonderful.
always, yeah.
I've been
If you,
seeking like-minded individuals for a very long time, and it's wonderful to just be open to having them arrive in your life.
we are like-minded just if we're on our own within ourselves.
But I'm sure you understand what I mean by
No, I
like-minded,
mean
as
in a
opposed
sense
to
that,
those
yeah.
who trying to
I was
have these
playing with words.
conversations with other people who would just
Yeah,
go,
I
oh, you're
meant,
just talking a bunch of nonsense, you're just philosophizing, and they don't realize that
oh no,
this is the essence of being.
correct. But I meant we as in
Oh,
like,
as in a tick.
Facebook like-minded. So yeah, so we are positive minded. In other words, we are affirmative minded. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I mean. We like-minded in that way. Even when we buy ourselves, we like-minded.
I like that.
Um,
I like that with a big tick.
a perspective shifting. Once you start to apply it as a habit, it translates into everything. And we want those multiple perspectives. The key thing with multiple perspectives is typically it comes in when it comes to comprehension and understanding. So the example that, Donna, how many times have you heard this example with wanting to understand the interior of a house? I don't know. This is probably about the zillionth time now, but still it's a good example. So let's say you want to understand the layout of a house. But in our typical scenarios, we're always looking at things from the outside. So when you do this for a house, you get to look through a window, but you want to understand the layout of the house. One window is not going to cut it, right? Multiple perspectives. You need to look through more than one window. Now, here's the key though, understanding perspective shifting. You don't necessarily need to look through all the windows. You simply need to look through sufficient where you have enough information to be able to extrapolate the totality of the inside, right? Once you have enough information, you can put together the layout of the house. You don't actually need to look through every single window. At some point, you can do some deductive reasoning. You can be that life detective and put it together. But you do need sufficient information to be able to do that. So this is the core understanding with multiple perspective shifting. If we do this with any understanding, any idea, any conceptuality, we just keep looking, and suddenly at some point, and it all falls into place. Right? Same thing with your life detective. Same thing with the actual real life detective. Keep looking at it from different angles. Every time you collect that extra little bit of information, at some point, it all falls into place. It coagulates, it crystallizes, it extrapolizes, really is what it does.
As you were explaining that, I was really visualizing in my mind actually looking through the windows of a house and putting together what we were just talking about observing the space around, because you may look in and see the object that someone else wants you to see, but in looking in the space around it, you will also see what's in the corners of that room.
Yes. This is a particularly good skill with photography, right? So if you're looking at photographs, like you taking a photograph of me, don't be looking at me. I'm looking at my face, where people typically look at everything else except the object. There's perspective shifting.
I'm going to borrow that, and I'm going to share that with my husband, because we have a long-standing friction when it comes to him taking photographs of me, because I always look for the application of that photograph, and he's just looking at the focal point, which is me, so he doesn't pay attention to what's around.
No, yeah, but
what
he does
often
that
happens
because
is you
he's
have
so enraptured by you.
Bless him. Yes, he can't help himself.
Exactly. So I got to stick up for hubby a little bit. Yeah, just.
Oh, I love and appreciate him wholeheartedly, but when you need a photograph taken from some distance, you need to be on the same page there. I'm always talking to him about art direction.
Brilliant. If he's a gamer, go ahead, Donna. Donna.
Oh, I was just going to share in reference to looking in the windows, if I may.
Please, of course, please.
In looking at what you were saying, Nerena, one of the things that I had found when I was being a life detective and opening myself up to many perspectives, which in the beginning was a bit of a challenge for me. I had a aspect of myself that used to see things as very black and white. So I would immediately focus on the person in the room. And then not only would I focus on the person, I'd focus on the clothes. And not only would I focus on the clothes, I'd focus on the shoes. And not only would I focus on the shoes, I would focus on the shoelaces. And did I like those shoelaces? Okay, so you get my point there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Immersive capacity.
And that's kind of ties in with what I was saying about taking that step back for perspective and seeing how they all fit together instead of becoming fixated on the detail.
Right. And so when I would pull back and I would be able to look at and observe the rooms, and I still am learning this, and not forming, oh, I really like the interior decoration of that room. Look at those pillows. Those are really pretty. And, kind of narrowing in on that focus of things I enjoy, or, oh, look at the color of that. That is just something else. Or am just pulling back and seeing the whole house eventually, and just observing the whole house. That's when it dropped. That's when I was able to kind of pull away into the abstract life detective mode versus being a narrow focus.
All right, here it comes with the tea.
Brilliant. Thank you, hubby. Thank you, hubby.
Everyone says thank you.
The whole group.
We'll send him some points to
brought
hubby
me
school.
some cake. So
Aw.
Wow. Brilliant. Awesome. And
sorry, I
to play
shouldn't be
name that
showing
app.
off about all of these treats. I hope you've all
No,
got something there with you.
no problem. Thank you. No, we enjoy. It's one of the things that we typically do on Zoom. We eat on Zoom, we share, and I love, and we at least I believe most of us love to see others enjoying stuff. So we get great fun out of it. But I was just going to say to play name that app with what Donna was doing. That's overview perspective. That concept overview perspective. Hyphenated, capital O, capital P. So we like to emphasize that for the mnemonicness of it. To leverage the emphasis in the brain, we use these as the mnemonic devices. But
I love
overview
this.
perspective.
Are you
Yeah.
creating a lexicon?
Oh, we have. So I was saying, each individual who participates in Wave Impeccability and the Moreness projects, they have their own dictionary of power. And it's a very real dictionary that you put in the terms and we go through and we extrapolate on the meaning and the detail. And it's your dictionary of power. Yes, there's overlap, but it's the individual's dictionary of power. So Donna has Donna's dictionary of power. Donna's got, all right, we won't give away the secrets. No, it's individual. You need to make it individual. Of course, something like impeccability is going to be in everybody's dictionary of power. But and we have core understandings and extended. We call them extended understandings rather than definitions. We try to stay away from definitions because definitions tend to be tight and boxy, and we don't have even words in our dictionaries of power. We have conceptions. Big difference.
They're also subjective.
Oh, absolutely. But there's a difference, though. We are trying to make this effort to get away from subjectivity. So one of the core understandings of what is in your dictionary of power are self-evident sensibilities. That itself is in there, right? So impeccability, when you understand at least the way we understand and articulate and express and use and live impeccability becomes a self-evident sensibility. And this is huge. This changes everything. We don't ask you to believe. We just ask you to understand. Once you understand, if you don't see the self-evidentness of, for instance, something like patience, if patience, which is one of the things enters into your dictionary of power, if patience isn't a self-evident sensibility or honesty or integrity or ethics or anything like this, well, okay, then I don't know what to do with you. Or goodness, if you can't see his goodness as a self-evident sensibility. So once we have that foundation and we're really clear about these conceptions, now we have a absolute power foundation with which to build on, because each of those conceptions, we've thought them through to the end. Another one of our power conceptions, thinking things through to the end. And to the end is all caps always. That's why you have to shout to the end. Absolutely critical to go to the end. But now what happens when you have these building blocks of yourself as a self-evident sensibility? It's not dependent on belief. This is critical. It's not dependent on feeling either. Feeling and beliefs are a lunatic loop. They're connected, they're combined. Feelings are engendered by beliefs and beliefs are engendered by feelings, and they feed off of each other and they tend to be mutually reinforcing. But there's additional parts to us that are outside of feeling and belief. My character, in other words. My character is not connected to my feelings or my belief. And my character is what we are talking about. So we are making sure to have a solid, rock solid character, one that we can operate from and where we can operate independently of our beliefs. Particularly, we go to that extra step, one of our absolute self-evident sensibilities and cause in our understanding of our self-conception is this power, the power conception of strategy. Strategy is absolutely critical. Without strategy, you're just dead in the water. You're just a sitting duck. You're hopeless. You're lost. So one of our core strategies is to absolutely make sure that we can, no matter what, when it comes to our beliefs, get value and usefulness. So we get value and usefulness whether our beliefs are true or not. We don't care. Either way, we're going to get value and belief. Very powerful strategy. And this we can do because we understand self-evident sensibilities, our character, and the difference between beliefs and feelings and how they relate to each other. It's very powerful. Very, very powerful. Yeah. Take death. That's a good example of how we apply this understanding. And one of our absolute core understandings that through our strategy we can get value, whether it's true or not. So we apply ourselves to develop our character, right? This is our way of impeccability. This is what it's all about, right? And we'll use the conception as a spirit warrior. That's individual. Everybody has their own particular self-conception, but it's just we use it for purposes of convenience. So this is our strategy to develop ourselves, to reconceive ourselves as a spirit warrior. And now let's look at this in the context of death. So we're not preparing for death in one sense, yes, but not in the way people usually might think of it, in the sense that I'm doing all this work so that when I die, I'll be okay, taken care of. And typically that involves a tremendous amount of sacrifice, and you're doing everything and you're giving it up. And I'm suffering now so that when I go, I'm going to go to heaven. That typical conception. We say, what happens if you die and then there's nothing? Haven't you kind of wasted your life then? All right. Well, then what? Okay. So we set our strategy in this, that we're going to get value here and now. That same value is going to serve us should there be more after death. And no matter what there is after death, any possible conception, what we are paying attention to, what we are getting from, what we are getting value from now, will also give us value in that eventuality. So regardless of death turns out to be true, not true, it turns out to be a whole bunch of different colors, it's multiple realities, multiple universes, who knows, whatever. We're in a dream, we're waking up from a virtual reality game, we don't care. We've developed our character and our skills of being, not our personality, not our current beliefs or particular detailed habits and doings. Those come and go. But the core skills, skills like, of course, impeccability or patience or integrity, what any of those skills, thinking it through to the end, perspective shifting, these are all power skills that help you in any possible reality, right? So we get value here now in this particular reality and in any other reality. Doesn't matter whether it be a gaming reality, a dream reality, who knows, So that's, I'm saying, that's our strategy. We're getting value. No matter what, we get value. And we apply this, that's in a bigger picture now, as a life detective picture, but we also get it in just small things too, small beliefs. When you start looking at matters with that intent, another one of our power conceptions, with that intent to get value both ways, it changes everything, makes you a lot more fluid, flexible.
I love this idea of zooming in and zooming out.
Yes. When in doubt, zoom out. Very nice little maxim that we like. We got a whole bunch of them, When in doubt, don't fork out, like as in fork out your money. When in doubt, don't pig out if you're in the restaurant, So we got a whole bunch of them. But anyway, when in doubt, zoom out. Very powerful, very powerful. We use that a lot, right, Donna? When in doubt, don't zoom. When in doubt, zoom out.
The other thing that happened in the process with Way of Impeccability that was relating to what you talked about that came up in me is when you're looking behind the words and when you're looking at the whole house and there's nothing that you're attaching to it, there was an automatic process that the belief, as in the somewhat traditional word of what, or definition of what that word might mean, evaporates. And the value is what's left, is what's present. So if you're living in the now and you're present in the now, then the value is in the now. And the belief and the feelings and the loop evaporate.
That's beautiful. That's a refinement and extraction of the essence and discarding the superfluous. I love it. So I'm just, and the because I'm a gamer, funnily enough, still not my husband, and I'm
brilliant.
playing a game at the moment, which excuse me.
Which one? What's it called?
I don't want to burn myself. So it's called Big Farm.
Big Farm. All righty then.
So I thought this will be a nice little way of just distracting myself from all of my coaching studies and all the heavy work that I've been doing on myself, and just entertaining myself. And it turns out that once you get to a certain level, the game opens up so that you can join a cooperative and you can play with other players.
That's right. Yeah.
And we've been learning along with each other about all of these things. So one of the aspects in the game is that I was able to build a meadow for growing different types of crops, and one of them was vanilla. And I didn't know until I'd progressed further that I could
metaphor in that somewhere there, right?
that I could refine it and extract it. So now we have the vanilla essence, which is much more much more valuable than the vanilla itself. And I just
More
that all
layered.
dropped in when Donna was speaking.
So, yes.
I find
That's what I'm
analogies
saying.
in everything.
But this is the life detective. This is the life detective skill. It is particularly to see analogy, figurative metaphor in everything. But there's a trick. There's a trick though. The trick is to connect that abstract with what's going on inside of you at that moment. It is the association management skill that makes it relevant. Because yes, I can absolutely find a symbolic or an abstract or a figurative metaphorical meaning in absolutely anything. And I can find multiple for you. So this is a skill that we all possess. The key is in the connectivity and the association. The key is to be aware of what's going on inside you, and then to enable your natural mechanism for association, for attention, for filtering, to connect the two, to connect the inside with that figurative outside. Now you're starting to get somewhere. Now you are leveraging our total abilities to get moreness out of the world. And all of a sudden, well, everything is just a paradise. You're always getting meaning. You're always getting purpose. You're always getting significance because of that prime skill of association management. Absolutely key. And of course, perspective shifting too, because you can't see the abstract without having the real ability to perspective shift. Plus, very important, some prime life detective skill. We have to understand that we are seldom looking for an answer. This is a real mistake of conceptuality. It is a powerfully terrible habit to say, oh, I'm looking for the answer. By implication, when you say I'm looking for the answer, you are assuming there's just one. Or, and there's
Or a
never just
finite
one.
number of solutions.
Exactly. There's typically multiple answers and an infinite number. But we don't necessarily want to get overwhelmed, but at least we want to see the other options, right? Because you don't want to just assume that, like as in the murder on the Orient Express, this was the classic example of an assumption of a murder. And, the first assumption is, well, who's the murderer? As soon as you broke out from that conception, now it all makes sense, right? And that was the key. And that's written. I don't know if you saw the movie or read the book, but if you actually read the book, right, it's written specifically to lead you to that assumption of a murderer. And Hercule gets, no, can't be. And it dawns on him. And then as soon as he clicks, it's obviously obvious. But when we do this as a regular practice to insist on multiple perspectives, even if there aren't any, we start to see more. Really powerful.
Beena, I'm gonna have to go. And if I may offer just something that came up before I go, I'd like to share with you. And it ties everything together with what you said and what Sil was saying. It's like, taking the looking in the windows. You're looking in all the windows at that point, and you're seeing the entire house. And then you're become a roofer that has to put the roof on, a brand new roof on, and you have to do it in 3 seconds. That's what we're doing. So
that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Donna.
You're welcome. What a pleasure to meet you.
What a mic drop to walk out on.
Donna's a champion at this.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
For sharing.
I look forward to having some more chats with you.
Me too. Very much so. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be with you for a while. Bye, Sil. Have a good day.
Bye.
Later.
Bye, Donna.
Yeah,
Bye.
Donna. Latest. Donna's so
this is very, very cool, Sil. So please tell me more about the way of impeccability.
I shall in a moment. I just wanted to say, hopefully Beena will be back any moment now. She left me a little message in chat to say she had to go. Typically, Beena,
she had to go to another Zoom call.
Yeah, that's right. So this it's actually fairly unusual, but you'll definitely get to meet Beena a lot more. We're on Zoom pretty much all day. Yes, we do have scheduled sessions, but a lot of times it's open. All right. So way of impeccability at its core, at its essence, is, as I said, it is character training, but character training with a difference. It is character training with a specific intent of connecting you to your own moreness through you. It's not a teaching, it's not a system, it's not a belief. And one of the things we'll specifically say to you deliberately is please don't believe me. Don't believe a word I say. As a matter of fact, if I notice a participant believing me, I will deliberately restructure things to bring things into doubt a little bit. You need to figure it out. You need to get there. So, way of impeccability is sharing of tools, right?
Mm.
Tools of change, tools of growth, tools of awareness, right? This is what it's all about. Tools, 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 tools. So the subtitle for it's a way of impeccability, a the way of impeccability life change program, right? That's what it is. It's a life change program. But the subtitle is a toolbox for deliberate living.
Mm.
Mm. You see
That's
the
for
power.
that's for
This
you,
is
and that's for the cake.
brilliant. Thank you, cake. Thank you, cake. Thank you. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Lemon cake.
No, it's actually a Pandoro.
A Pandora.
Yeah,
Wow, I don't know what a Pandora cake is.
it's a very light, yeasted Italian sponge.
Wow. But as
It's
an
a
appropriate cake for what way of impeccability is, it is a Pandora cake.
mm,
See,
it's
I get
actually
much. This is the way. Yeah. Now, for me, that comes in one of our later conceptions in the later part of the program, the conception of attunement. When you're in attunement, stuff like this starts to come. But yeah, it's just magical. So magical, not in a woo woo sense, but that in the same sense as my phone is magical, and the gyroscopic effect is magical. All sorts of magic in the world, right? Energy is just magical. Everything is magical to me. Let's put it that way.
oh,
So
I'm
way of
in
impeccability is this.
100% agreement with that, and even the idea of woo woo magic, I'm not opposed to. In fact, my
Exactly.
husband affectionately refers to me as a witch. He thinks that there are
Brilliant,
certain things
brilliant,
that I
brilliant.
do that cannot be explained by
No
conventional
problem.
methods,
No problem. Yeah, we enjoy everything. People ask
and
me, what do
I
I
own it.
believe? I say, right. I say, I believe in everything.
Hmm. I believe in
Simple as that.
inclusion. I believe in
Right.
inclusion. I'm very
Everything,
strongly
in
opposed to
everything in it.
exclusion.
Right. Exactly. Everything in its context has some value. So it's
Mm.
all a matter of, we can perspective shift on anything and we see the abstract of anything. Once you see the abstract of things, it's all the same in the end. So what difference does it make? It's just terminology. Um,
Mm.
so this toolbox for deliberate living, right there, when you unpack that, for us, that's a fractal conception. And we see all of the entries into your diction of power as fractal conceptions, very particularly because we are taking a big moreness and you pack it, and you put it so nice and tightly and densely in there that it's nice and neat in one conception. Deliberate living, just that alone.
Mm.
If you think about it for a second, oh, and suddenly it starts to unpack, and deliberate living becomes a self-telling story. Yes.
As you speak, I see visualizations in my mind of this, and it reminded
Brilliant.
me of when I was a child. We used to go, if you could get these at festivals or carnivals and things, and children find incredible ways to spend their pocket money on rubbish. But I remember
Right.
very particularly there was a craze for these tiny little capsules that you put into
Mm.
water and you could grow a dinosaur. And that's
Yes,
what it made me think of, like it
yes,
all
yes,
compressed into the
yes. A
capsule.
fractal
And
conception, exactly. And that's what that is. Exactly, exactly. And it extrapolates into moreness. Right. And that extrapolation of the conception is simply done through attention.
mm,
That's the magic, right? In the case of your dinosaur, it was water. In the case of a seed, you need nutrients and water and light. But in our case, really all you need is attention, right? So just a bit of attention and it unpacks. So another way of thinking it, if you're a computer buff, and it's like a cabinet file, a self-unpacking file. When you download like your operating system, if you
mm,
look at the file extensions, they call them cabinet files, And like a zip file, you need a program to unpack a zip file, to unzip a zip file. But a cabinet file is a self-unpacking file. So,
All right.
so fractal conception similar to that, a self-unpacking. Another way of thinking of it, a self-telling story.
Oh, I
So
like
we
this. I
want
like
all of,
the nuance
yeah,
in it, because I've been thinking in more
yes,
broad and quite general terms about upgrades.
yes,
And
yes, yes. Oh, we like those too. Yes, yes.
so
Let me
my
just
big
finish. You
thing,
asked me.
sorry, yes.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, you finish, and then I'll come to that point.
Well, you asked me a big question. You say, tell me about wave impeccability, what it is. So
Mm.
that's a big question. So we'll go, and I'll keep coming back to that. So please, feel free to go on the digressions and detours. I have a skill for coming back to the center column, as we call it.
Oh,
And
good.
the
That's a
center column
skill
here
that I
being,
need to hone as a coach.
it is a
Just to,
powerful skill. It is a powerful skill. Just visualize it as the center column and know what it is. I have clarity of intent, which is module 1, session 1 of the program. Clarity of intent. Once we understand clarity of intent, holding the center column is really easy. Know what you're doing and why you're doing. So if ever you get lost in your day, just say one thing. Just say, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And don't make it only local and specific and detailed, but abstract. What am I? And again, as you say, what am I doing? Right? First you go down. What am I doing? And what am I doing? 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 And I see it from that overview perspective. I see the entire funnel, right? Big picture down to the moment you realize what it is you're doing, you're right back at center column. No problem. No problem. Very powerful mnemonic to remember. Really, really useful.
I'm
Um,
I'm just so amazed by, as you speak, I just keep getting mental images, real clear
excellent.
visualizations. And as you said that,
Excellent.
I thought of a tree, and that that tree trunk being the central column, and how people can send off branches and start running down the
Exactly.
branches like little squirrels
Exactly.
and into twigs,
Exactly.
and you have to bring them back to the center
Exactly.
so that they keep going up.
Exactly. 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 So, you've got the tunnel over there, right? Between the continents, right? And you can think of that as a center column. But the magic thing with tunnels is there's no tunnel really exists in isolation. Actually go down into your tunnel there, right? And look at it. There's escape tunnels, there's ventilation tunnels, there's service tunnels, there's the secondary tunnel for the maintenance vehicles. There's all sorts of tunnels. Very seldom do tunnels really exist as purely a tunnel. They always have side tunnels. So you need those to really have the main core tunnel really work. So if you think of it that way, okay, we focused on something that's our tunnel, but you got all those side tunnels that support it. And they're good. They need to be there. Very
And
useful,
actually,
useful
you have to
visualization.
decide you have to decide whether you
And
want to explore the tunnels or whether you just want to go into a hole, because that's really
exactly,
the
exactly,
options. A tunnel
exactly,
without
exactly, exactly,
without an
exactly,
opening at the other end is just a hole.
exactly. Without maintenance, without breath, without escape, without safety, no, 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 no. Thank you very much. You need to have that full exploration. And it's also about understanding. So to come back to wave impeccability, that deliberate living, this is a huge deal. And the key to what we do is that we provide you the tools to connect to your pre-existing moreness. Very important.
Yeah.
Very important. So we
And
might
that's
say that most people are a computer, right? And if you know computers, most people don't get the fraction of the value out of their computer. So we
mm,
are enabling you to actually know your operating system and to tweak and upgrade your operating system and to access all of the full power and potential of your operating system to get rid of all that bloatware and spyware and all this other crap that's in your system. That's what you're going to do. Really, just get rid of all that crap, and now your computer can probably work. And once your operating system is there, you can access the software and make that work. And you know the software for what it is. The software is not the computer, right? So
mm,
that core, your character, in other words, this is the issue, right? And the tools that you need to open and unpack software and all of the stuff, these are, your answer program or whatever you're calling it, all your different tools for utilizing your software. This is what wave impeccability is all about. So it's like a super operating system, but you're the one who uncovers it. I can't tell you who you are. I can't tell you what's important to
oh,
you. Only
absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know that. So we do this and we have all the tools now. let me just make this, say something, it wasn't always easy for me to say this, but I just just from my own impeccability point of view, I have to. The program is incredibly sophisticated. It's a very, very sophisticated program. It is multi-layered, and we employ very sophisticated learning strategies. We want to leverage inadvertent learning. So the system is set up. It's not the content. There's an online program. You go, you do the sessions, and then you come back, and we go onto Zoom, and it's a 2-hour Zoom session twice a week. 95% of the program takes place here in Zoom. Why? Because it's custom. And the mechanisms that we employ, we have particular leveraging mechanisms that you do. They leverage you to inadvertently learn. This is the real secret of what we do. Because we aren't just looking for life change, we are looking for lasting life change. Very big difference. So in order to do that, so much more has to take place. And this is what we do on the Zoom. We provide an environment and a mechanism whereby you can apply and implement and practice and do all sorts of things that enable that permanent lasting change. We understand how the actual brain rewires itself. We are masters of emphasis. We are very, very skilled at emphasis. We are wizards, not masters. Sorry, my bad. We are really skilled at this. So we have particular skills. But yeah, when it comes to emphasis, we're absolute wizards of emphasis. And this is the key to get you to connect to your moreness. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to learn new stuff. Of course you are. But it's untapping your understanding that you've always had the moreness. And everybody has this. But to be consciously, deliberately, fully aware of it, this is a whole other deal. To know what it is that you are doing and to be able to choose that clearly, consciously, deliberately, big difference, big difference. So typically, most participants end up growing up in their past very rapidly. It's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. They come to see, at the time, oh my God, what an nincompoop. One nincompoop's one of our power conceptions, by the way. It's a massively, massively awesome conception. Yeah, really. I mean, we leverage it, and it's transformative for some. Right? I mean, it's more, especially Americans. It's not a term they're familiar with. You know the term.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but they don't know this term. But it enables us to make peace with our silliness, our foolishness, our idiocy. And we say, I was such an idiot. I was such a nincompoop. But we also see that even in that nincompoopery, I was being impeccable. I was being sensible, but I was just doing so inappropriately. So this is a massive power conception, inappropriate application of goodness. So we use that, we leverage that. And again, it's making you familiar with the conceptions. Once you understand it, you apply it. That's the tool. You apply it to your own circumstances. And then we have specific tools that allow this to shift the key issue, which is habit. Right in session one, we say clarity of intent, and our great enemy is habit. Without dealing with habit, you can kiss all your learning goodbye. You're going to have a fantastic session and you're going to say, thank you, Mr. Guru or coach or whoever the hell. And that was awesome and mind blowing. And I had the realization and the epiphany. And, I've got wax coming out of my backside. And wow, it's just fantastic. I can make my own castles, my own candles when I fart. But yeah, it doesn't mean, but tomorrow, it's all gone. Where's my candle? Where's my candle? It's gone. Yeah, this happens all the time. People do programs, do courses, and it's fantastic, and it really is fantastic. I'm not saying the programs are crap. No, there's value there, but it doesn't.
It's about what you do with it.
Into lasting value, correct? And those
and
skills.
I've fallen victim to that so many times. In fact, right up until a couple of months ago, where I realized that I had been investing in so many programs, and I was trying to speed through everything, and I was trying to be teacher's pet and just wanting to be top of the class and have all the answers, but I wasn't embedding the knowledge. I wasn't allowing it to drop from the conscious into the subconscious.
Yes. And not just into the subconscious, we go a step further. We take it all the way into the body, which was where Jocelyn's coming into with the Qigong. It's, yes, we have techniques for doing that in way of impeccability, but it's not a particular speciality of mine personally. So I was looking for this as an addition to wave impeccability. He's going to train us to be able to actually train people to do the thing. It's pretty simple techniques. I'm aware of it and I use it, but not in that detailed specific way. This is important. But just conceptually, we want to put it into our bodies. Incorporation in the absolute full sense of the meaning of the word. To incorporate is to make physical, right? So this is what we do. It's very
Wow.
important. If you don't feel it, it's not real. So
Mm,
all of right again
absolutely.
in module one, session one, the intent of the program is to take what you know and take it all the way down into feeling and past habit into new habit,
Mm,
conscious, deliberate habit. Again, deliberate living. You don't want to just replace your old habits for new habits because what we know today, all of the magic that you're going to learn from way of impeccability, that's not going to necessarily last. It will shift, it will morph, it will grow, it will adapt, it will expand, it will upgrade. We need to have those tools on hand when the upgrade comes, that it actually does change the operating system. It's not just
mm.
a surface upgrade that means nothing, and tomorrow you're back to your old things again. It's very important. This happens all the time. One of
I
the key
totally,
issues.
totally agree. I was working with a neuro coach, and she described this, and I realized that what you're describing and the way of impeccability is almost like the university degree of the high school
Yeah,
version of what I'm learning at the moment with my
yes,
neuro coach.
yes, yes. This
Because
is your
what she
this is
was
your
doing was,
doctorate. Yeah.
what she was doing was um, getting me to be aware of the physical sensation of
Ah,
the feelings attached to certain things. And so rewiring and reprogramming the brain to replace the feelings of
right,
anxiety and fear
right,
with feelings of success,
right, right.
and where I was feeling that in the body.
Brilliant. Oh, that's cool. So one of our sophistication, as you see, is not just use of language. People mistake this. Oh, you have such good use and command of language. You so articulate. It's not that I have a good. Yeah, I do, but that's secondary. It is the command of conception, which is very different.
Mm,
Very, very different. I know lots of people with fancy vocabularies. They don't have a command of conception at all. They have
mm,
no clarity of understanding, no clarity of intent. They don't see how the thing goes down to its root essence. And from that root essence, how it connects to something else in that root essence. That connectivity is what makes for my particular articulation. I see
mm.
how it's all connected. And so do the people in the program, like Donna and Beena. That connectivity, when you see this as the participants go through at some point, and it just starts dropping in those connections. This is cool because also we understand the absolute essentials of how the brain works. If you don't think it through to the end and understand the totality of the conception, you never get to use it. You get to say the
Mm,
words in the language, but you never get to fully use it. So most
yeah.
people know things more or less, kind of almost, but not all the way. And so they never get that full value because they can't own it themselves.
Mm.
And this is
Now,
absolutely
I really love what you said, because um, I've often had that experience where I, I've not been able to fully understand something that I'm being taught, because I don't see how it fits in, because I haven't
exactly,
been given
exactly.
enough of the detail for me to be able to really put the whole picture together. And what I've found often with a lot of teachers is that they would say that I'm trying to over intellectualize it, and that the fault is with me rather than the fact that they are not
Ah, they
providing
don't
enough
get it.
detail for
They
me
don't
to
get it.
create the picture.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So now
So
I'm
if
going to
you,
find the remaining elements myself.
exactly, and one of the things that happens and that we are looking to have happen, and the tools and our skills as facilitators, we are very skilled at this. We immerse the participant into immersion, into a particular emotion. And one way you could call it is they become immersed in becoming their own personal, practical philosophers. I
Mm.
just like it because it's all P's and I love alliterations and I love mnemonics. But to be your own personal, practical philosopher. I don't mean to be as philosophers of all theory and nonsense. No, practical. When you are philosophizing for the intent and purpose to get something that's usable and valuable and practically applicable, this is our entire focus and intent. If it isn't practically applicable, it's wasted, it's useless. That's our philosophy, right? We take it all the way down to practical application and to understand it to the extent that you cannot not do it.
Mm.
to understand it to the extent that you cannot not do it. You see, most people, they understand stuff, but there's always in the back of their mind that, yeah, but when you've thought it through all the way to the end, you've explored every detour, every side tunnel, every roundabout, you know there is no possible way you cannot do this. You cannot change. So now you don't really even need to work on habits so much. But we have other techniques for dealing with habits that are ridiculously powerful because we understand this. We call it inadvertent learning. It is an incredibly powerful mechanism.
I
Incredibly
love that
powerful. Yeah.
idea, inadvertent learning.
Inadvertent
You
learning is
can't help
powerful
but
because
learn it.
exactly, it happens automatically, and we have systems and mechanisms that leverage this to do this of their own accord. It's very, very, very cool. The other thing I wanted to say about wave impeccability, it is geared specifically to CEOs, life coaches, therapists, etc. Of course, for individuals too, just for your own purpose and usefulness. But this is its focus. It is
Mm.
focused to individuals in those situations because it is such a high level program that gives you the meta logic of the meta understanding of things. You have the basic conceptuality. With this, you can do anything. Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you understand these tools and techniques, this conception, you can apply it to absolutely anything. And it shifts your ability to take what you do and just puts it in a whole sphere, which is why, like Jocelyn, he is so excited to do where it's already started. But I mean, it just like wow, wow, wow. He sees immediately how this is going to leverage whatever he's doing. Same thing with Sue was on earlier. She was a holistic therapist. She's been doing it for 20 years, and it's like she said, "Oh my God, I've been doing this stuff for 20 years, and it's like now suddenly it's like everything is like that whole what she did before." She said, "If I didn't have sense of character, I'd be depressed because I kind of realized how small that was. Not that it's invaluable, but relative to the power of this tool, which is now employs with her clients, it's like a whole different world, whole different world, whole different world. I mean, just simple things that she did just transformed it. So it's powerful in that context. And I wanted to make this very clear that it is geared towards it's not just a self improvement or a life change program in that sense. It is, yes, it is, but it's also geared to a particularness because it cannot help but be that because we are dealing with this overview perspective understanding of how learning itself works and how change itself works and the core elements, which is your character, your ethics, your conscience, all of these things, and the brain, the body, the whole interconnection. It's very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. So we have
It
fun.
is indeed. And
We have a lot of fun.
I'm finding that my brain is going to be whirring long into the night.
Yeah, good, good, good. Let me ask you, just as a little detour, again,
Mm.
something I do deliberately because there's a lot of intensity. So I just go a little, just to take some pressure off. I'm assuming there's a very deliberate arrangement to the books behind you.
Uh, so those are all posters in picture
Oh,
frames.
they're posters, not books.
Yes, no,
I thought they were books because
no,
there's writing on them. You see, it looked like they, title and author. So,
oh yes, no,
okay.
you're on my bed with me, and this is a picture shelf above the headboard.
Oh,
Um,
picture shelf, not a bookshelf. Oh, okay.
yeah.
I thought maybe they were, books that you'd written or people that written or that you
Oh,
bought
if
of or
only.
something.
No, no, no. I'm still working on my first book. I'm 24,000 words in, and I keep finding
Brilliant.
myself um, running down that tree branch like a squirrel, uh,
Probably
and
getting to
having to
about
bring
24
myself back
million
up.
words by now.
I have to keep coming back onto the trunk and keep moving upwards, and
Yes.
it's very distracting. It's because of a
Ah,
lack of
brilliant.
discipline, but also rampant curiosity. Is that I can't
Ah,
focus on
uh,
one thing at a time. So
brilliant. So
working on that.
writing, it just a little offshoot. I need to finish developing it, but I do have a writing program. It's called Writing Tips to Myself. But again, it's understanding the psychology of what we're doing and the deepness understanding. But that's a separate thing. It's not specifically part of Wave and Picker, but because taking notes and there's a very particularness to the notes and there's a lot that goes into the notes and without going into the detail on that, it's really powerful stuff though. But you end up writing a lot. And one of the magics is this was her. She got to write her book specifically because of the program. I mean, I actually specifically said, sure, write this as a book. It was a very specific recommendation. And then we supplied the why and the how and the wherefore. And it is the key, I said, is take your journey through the program and write this. Now, it morphed into other stuff because she had history and all this. But for every participant, every single one of them, if they had the inclination to do so, they could take their notes and write it and just convert it into book form. And this would be a most incredible book, by the way. Most books that people like to read in a a literary fiction or something, they are always journeys of self-discovery, self-transformation, self-learning, self-growth, right? That will be your notes. So I'm just telling you now already. And 24,000 words, please. Next time you talk to Sue, mention your 24,000 words, but be prepared for some scoffing.
Well, like I said, I've only just begun, and if I was a bit more focused, if I could decide.
She probably did 24,000 in the first month, by the way. No, first week probably. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. It's very stimulating what we do. Very, very stimulating. And you become profuse without even noticing it. It is absolutely incredible. So, if you do like writing and you do want to write, and I mean, I'm assuming you're writing something creative, but it does make no difference. Okay. Is writing a creative story, because she just takes this and you just convert it. It's very simple. So if you want to have material, you're going to have umpteen material, huge amounts of material. It's very exciting stuff. Yeah, and particularly the writing.
I'm trying to unrestrict myself. I'm very aware now of the blocks.
Yes.
Well, not so much aware of the blocks, but I'm aware that blocks are there.
Correct. And this is the program. This is exactly the program. We have, again, like I said, we are very sophisticated, and we really, really, really do understand learning. Very much so. The actual mechanisms of learning, and even outside of the conventionalities of the system, as it were. For instance, the program is based on the philosophy of replacement. And it is a philosophy unique to us, but it's the philosophy of replacement. We don't look to fix anything. We couldn't care two hoots about fixing you. Not interested. We have sophisticated way of those fixes happening by themselves. Again, inadvertent learning. So the stuff that you need fixing, we are going to pay attention to something with a specific purpose of learning something new. And as a bonus, it's going to happen to fix the thing that you want to fix. Very sophisticated. Very sophisticated. Like and it's a very deliberate strategy. Take a very simple example. Teach your kids to not steal. And they're obedient and they do everything, and they end up learning to not steal. Fantastic. They're not thieves. Does that make your kids kind and courteous and considerate? Hell no, not necessarily. It may or may not. Teach your kids to be kind, courteous, and considerate. Can they be
And they will not steal, and they will not do other bad things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So when we understand this, and this unfortunately, sadly, is the bane of the coaching, the therapy, all of these things, industry. They all are focused on fixing. And they don't actually do it, because here's the problem with that, right? So when you eliminate the negative,
to be fair,
what do you get?
The training that I'm doing at the moment as a coach is all focused on what do you want to do instead. Forget about curbing habits or breaking them. Just what do you want? Like you said, what do you want to replace it with?
Replacement.
And that's absolutely amazing. What you said is not to teach children do not, teach them do.
Right. And particularly in the context too, now we go even further, again, very sophisticated. You cannot teach them in isolation. We are, like I said, wizards of emphasis. We are teaching them to emphasize the kindness, courtesy, and consideration. But you're keeping in mind that, stealing is something that exists. We aren't ignorant of stealing, but we just de-emphasize it. It's just a non-entity. It's like, why do you want to do that? There's just no point to it. And so we don't pay it any mind, but we are not ignorant of it either. We de-emphasize it and massively emphasize what we want. This is very key. If you do not do that, then you have an imbalanced system. and lopsided, and you just have ignorant people that get blindsided. Oh my God, somebody stole from me. What is stealing? I didn't know such a thing could do. And they just lost. I mean, it's a stupid example, but it actually literally happens actually with real people that grow up in innocence. The key core too is to understand the real deep underlying psychology. The problem with fixing problems is that you're eliminating a negative. But look in math. Okay, so you've got the -2. Well, eliminate the -2. All right, so I add +2 or fix the -2, which means I now end up at 0.
I just had a visualization of trying to remove a hole by digging more out of it. And what you're doing
Exactly.
is making a bigger hole.
Exactly. And that's the next point I wanted to make. We understand the psychology of immersion and emphasis. The more you focus on something, literally when you emphasize, it actually changes your the brain nodes in your brain. They actually physically expand, right? Right in that moment of emphasis. And in that moment of emphasis, those brain nodes expand, which allows them to connect to other nodes. They expand. And that's why when you have intense emphasis, like when houses of parliament burn down, or maybe Guy Fawkes succeeds eventually, or something like that, 9/11 or whatever, any intense moment, we remember exactly where we were at that moment. It's because of the emphasis, right? But now, if you do the typical fixing thing, what are you emphasizing? You're emphasizing problem. So of course that problem becomes the patient's entire world. They live in a world of problems. Suddenly they see problems everywhere. And this is why people are in therapy for decades. Because
And
yes, you
that's
fix the first problem, but you've now, I've got all these other problems, and problems feed on problem, and you live in a world of problem. No, 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 no. Not us. Not
that's
us.
such a powerful thing that you just said, because with
Huge.
all of that, those emphases are always in a negative connotation. It's always something
Exactly. It's horrible.
catastrophic, it's
Exactly.
something
It's
damaging.
horrible.
We don't
Exactly.
have that intensity of recall for
Right.
positive. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And in way of impeccability, your entire dictionary of power, which is something, it's one of the things that you do from the go. There's other things to do, but this is from the go. You create a file, which is your dictionary of power, which is a dictionary, but it's of power. It's conceptions with these extended understandings, not definitions, because we don't want to be limited. But the more you do that, you start to see how they connect with each other. And then you see this bigger structure of understanding how the world works. And as we go through the program, we actually make sense of the world. And it's not an idle boast. Oh, how can you make sense of the world? All the philosophers through the ages have tried this, and it's pretty simple, really, when you get down to it. But that's one of our core, we call disruptive technologies. To
I
use
love that.
the tech term. Oh, we got a whole bunch of them. So I mean, dictionary of power is disruptive technology when you use
I
it,
mean, just
and it's
listening to you speak is just incredible, Phil.
thank you,
Um,
thank you,
you
thank you.
have a real mastery of language as well. And I'm listening to your accent, and I'm going to guess that you are in the Netherlands. You are from the
Oh,
Netherlands.
that's a good guess. I'm actually in Arizona, but my time is European time. I go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and wake up at 11 o'clock local time. So
Sorry, I
just
should have
because of
said
the Zoom and
your
international.
and where you are from originally.
The accent originally is from South Africa, hence the Netherlands sounding accent. So it's a good guess. It's a very good guess.
Ah, yes, Afrikaans.
Well, my home language is English. I speak, well, I can speak. I don't like to speak Afrikaans. It's a very primitive language. If you ask me, very backward. I have to kind of twist my head to
I
speak it.
think it's
I hear it.
it's
It's
probably
fine.
it's probably the associations with it, but Afrikaans can be really beautiful in how
Yeah.
descriptive it is, I find, in a way that
Oh,
English is very direct and simple.
as a swearing language, no comparison to Afrikaans. It's the absolute best for swearing and vulgarity and crudeness. It's champion par excellence. Nothing to beat it that I found. When I have a very really potent and fun um, path in my youth. I stayed in a tiny little town, literally in the middle of country, middle of nowhere. And then I was kind of in a middle-sized town, and then I was in the city. But in that middle-sized town, very large immigrant community. So in my class, because it was in the English class, and there was less English than Afrikaans, so like 4-to-1 ratio, pretty much. But I had Dutch, Portuguese, Greek, English, Italian, the whole works, and they spoke those languages at home. So, which is nice, because the parents were still there, so the language is still. So they all spoke that as a second language, whatever it was. And of course, first thing you do is how do you say all the swear words? I learned swear words in all the languages, but Afrikaans by far the best. No comparison. It's amazing.
It is definitely colorful and vibrant.
It's a very guttural language, even if you say very simple things that aren't necessarily vulgar of their own accord, but they just sound bad, like pas is etter. It's like, man, this etter, it just sounds vulgar, it just sounds gross.
It really it connects you physically with the sound of the word, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's
Yes,
amazing. So you're
so
in
for swearing,
Arizona.
it's good, but for everything, the grammatical structure for me relative to English, I find it's kind of it's a bit redundant in the way they speak. The little I have to make extra effort really to speak Afrikaans. I don't care for it, but I really love English, and
I
it's a
think it's
potent
also
language for me.
the root languages can make it very complicated. Like with the
Yes,
French influence, I think the French
yes,
use a lot
yes.
more words than they need to.
Yes, exactly. But also there's the artistry of the French, that they like to take that little extra, that panache, the style, the verve. Now, yes, it can be an egotistical, indulgence, or it can be a real artistry of style. All depends how you come at it. So it's a big deal
Yes,
there.
it's
I
very
have a nice little story about that,
left
actually.
brain versus right brain application of
Yes,
languages.
yes, yes. And it can also be nobility versus ego versus hierarchy, really, if you
Mm.
want to look at it from another point of view. Yes. I have well, you talk about writing. Like I said, I probably had like 24 million words, never mind 1,000. But anyway, I have a lot of writing too. So I have a couple of book series of series, different series. And one of them is the Biala series, which is about a, a future society, but it revolves around the concept of nobility. So they call the new nobility, and they're on the planet Nobilia, and they're part of the agglomeration. And actually, that's my backgrounds. They love architecture, and so they have all this wild architecture all over the show. But anyway,
I will have to get
so
myself up to speed, and I need to look up Nobelia because I
yeah,
haven't done
yeah,
yet. I've
yeah.
just
It
been
is. Yeah,
following my instinct, and I thought I would reach out because I
brilliant,
am so
brilliant.
attracted to the idea of communicating with you, and I'm so grateful that we have
Brilliant.
done. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
The reason as I say, the reason I brought up Nobilia and Biella is because there's a particular Biella series story. It's for now she's talking about the young man, and well, at least the young man, and that's a sub series. But anyway, it's set in she goes to Paris, and they go to the shops, they go shopping, and she wants to show her mission is to mandate is to exemplify nuance and sophistication. And she goes into the shop, and it's a whole story about the artistry of daily living and the sophisticated artistry of that daily living. How it's some, at least there's a culture in France that takes daily living to a level of art form, and it's a spiritual expression, but it's very nuanced, and a lot of people miss it, particularly Americans. When they go shopping there, they just don't have a clue. They miss it all
Um,
completely.
for me, you said the first thing you want to learn generally when you hear a new language, or you hear someone with a different native tongue, and you just want to hear the swear words. I mean, that is how we
Or
all
used to, not anymore.
well we all have that tendency to want to know how to fluck somebody first
Right, right,
before we can say
right.
anything else.
Exactly,
But
exactly,
for me,
exactly.
particularly, food has always been my interest. So my way of
I
learning language is through cuisine and through menus.
right,
And whenever I visit a new place, my favorite thing to do is go to a supermarket and see what different kinds of foods they
That's
have.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
so
To
when
you
you
see
talked
a lot
about
about a culture
the
from the
the
supermarket.
French the French art of living, it's very much gustatory.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's totally tied to that. Yeah, yeah. So where are you now? Not in South Africa, are you, or are you?
No, I am in lovely grey, wet Kent in England.
Brilliant. I love the rain. I can never get enough of the rain. Now,
I
if
love
you
the
have
rain. I
any,
miss African
yeah,
rain though. I have
yeah,
to say, I grew up in Johannesburg, so I miss those
I figured.
heavy, sudden storms.
Yes, yes. And the other
What's it
thing that
like in Arizona? I was
it's
not
similar.
too
It's
far
similar.
away from you a few years
It's
ago.
similar to the I felt. Very similar. Same thing. Same thing.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Thunderstorms and well, except here we have a bit of a wet winter, a little bitty, but not. You might get I don't know a week's worth of it over the whole winter, kind of that. I've had 4 days now, which is very unusual, but it's not really. It's dry most. Yeah, you're living in desert. It's like living in the Karoo, really.
Well, I was just
So
thinking that just a little bit of like a day's worth of rain can sustain the desert life for quite a long time,
exactly. Oh yeah.
which
Oh
is
yeah.
amazing.
I've
I was
lived in a literal desert there in South Africa.
You did?
There's a very unusual there. Yeah, it's called the murderous Karoo, or in Afrikaans, Moreness Karoo, and it's just north of Ceres. Now, if you don't know if you know
Okay.
the town of Ceres, they call it Little Switzerland, and you say, oh, but it's all beautiful and green and all that. But it's a very big, or it used to be at least, and it was a very big area. And so you go over a mountain range, and on the other side of the
Mm,
mountain range, it's just all desert, and it's a very
yeah.
low-lying desert because it's fairly south, but still it's in the interior but low, so it's a very hot and dry. But yeah, it's a very unusual place. So I
I'm
lived
just
there for a
amazed that
while,
I
which
just
is
learned
a long
something
story.
new about that because I always associated Ceres with the mountains and the valleys, that
Exactly,
all of the
exactly.
greenery and growing all the fruit. I
Ah,
mean, they
right,
even have
right,
the juice brand series. So
right. Exactly. And you go over the mountain though, and it's a fabulous story how I got to be there. If you want to hear somewhat long stories, give you an insight just into a little bit of my life and
please,
my
I would
history.
love to know more.
I used to have this huge map. I mean, it was about almost 6 feet tall by about 4 feet wide of South Africa, right?
Mhm.
And it used to hang in there. And at that time, I had a restaurant, very busy restaurant down in Sea Point, and I said I always wanted to get out of the restaurant because I wanted to do my learning and growing because I've been doing what I'm doing now since age 10, and that was my first love always. So I always wanted to get out. So I said, okay, where do I want my farm? And I want the farm. I said in a remote area, and I looked at the roads on the map. Not too many roads, but also fairly close to the city in case you still
Mhm.
need the stuff, right? So I wanted the combination of that. I put my finger on the spot in the map. So this would be a right spot. This would be an ideal spot. Okay. So the years go by. Well, we're 4 years in the restaurant. Now, if you've ever been in a high intensity restaurant business, 4 years is the equivalent of 40 years in any
Mm.
other business. It really is. So okay, so and long story, we get out, and it's a very powerful story. People grabbing my arm like they're stopping me in the restaurant, and they say, if I was your age, and they would tell me these stories, and they were always laments of their lost youth because I was very young at the time, my early mid 20s. So anyway, grab my arm. So all right, we got to get out. So we get out. It was very hard to do. So in this getting out, um, long story results, but we go into a new business, and the universe takes anyway. We get into a spot where we get kind of pressure on us to get out of the system, as it were. And it just so happened that, again, a hugely, really huge, long, unusual story, where I have this printout of properties that my father owns. Another long, crazy story there. So say, oh, I look through this property, and I say, oh, he's got a couple of farms in Ceres. Wow, cool. Okay, I'll phone him and ask him if we can go and stay on one of the farms. Okay, I call him up. I said, can we go and stay on the farm? Yeah, sure, he says, and he laughs. Like, kind of weird. What the hell are you laughing for? But anyway, my father's like a J.R. Ewing, so all right, yeah, I mean, real life, even wears a Stetson and shit, but he's a doctor. But anyway, so all right, so I don't pay too much attention to to that laugh. And we put all our stuff in the moving van, and it's a one-way trip, and we're out there. And long story, but so we drive and we drive and we drive. Because now we're coming from Cape Town, right? Drive okay through Ceres. Oh, so beautiful, wonderful. Oh, cool. But no, I'm following the directions. Okay, go north. All right, just keep going. Okay, we drive, we go over the mountain. Yeah, oh, go keep going. Anyway, so when we start going, well, oh no, this is no more pretty. It's just desert. And as we go, we're driving for miles as dirt road. We're just keeping. It's like almost about a 60-mile drive that we keep going till where the turnoff is. Now, when you're driving on a gravel road already for a couple of hours, it's like this isn't so exciting anymore. And the two moving guys, two white guys with polished shoes, pleated trousers, and collared shirts. That was my moving team. Very unusual. In South Africa, right? And that was in '92. I never seen anything
Wow.
like it. Just those two guys, right? But they were very humble guys, as it were, but kind of tight. There was a sobriety to them. just the two of them, and they had polished shoes. This was what amazed me, with those pleated trousers and collared shirts. Which
The,
moving guys
the word
wears polished
impeccable
shoes?
just came into my mind.
Exactly. Anyway, so we're driving and they say, "Are you sure this is the right way? Are you sure?" They're getting a bit nervous because you're just driving and driving. And in that particular road, there's nothing to see, absolutely nothing, except those little cement tables on the sides of the road, for the sheep stations, because the people walk the sheep along there. Anyway, that's it, nothing else. Now, you sure this is the right way? Sure. Yes, I said. They said, just keep driving, just keep driving. Okay. So eventually we get to the turn of, okay, here we go, Kahakama. Another long story with Kahakama. Anyway, here we go. Okay, turn off here. We go, little, very farm, small road. We turn off. It's a bit sandy, and the moving van. It's just a small box van. It kind of shifts through the sand, and we get there, and there's just a old style farmhouse with no roof on it. That's obviously a stable, or at least was a stable. There's nothing in it but straw. And there's a prefab house with the roof blown off, and a very old, very, very old buildings that kind of still, farmhouse that's kind of already settled into the ground,
Wow.
that you can see the ground's kind of a third of the way up the door already. But this prefab house, the roof has been blown off, and there's parts of the ceiling is kind of lying around this yard, and it's just completely and utterly desolate. So, yeah, here we go, the other place. And those guys, when we unloaded, they must have asked with every single, we couldn't get into the building. It was locked, so we just put it on the ground until we could figure out how to get in. But every time we unloaded something and put it down there next to the house, they must have said, "Are you sure you want to stay? We'll take you back, no charge. We'll take you back, no charge." Every single time. But this was the key, though. From an impeccability point of view, we knew one thing clearly: there's no going back.
Mm.
When you're on a path that is appropriate and right, and the entire universe has conspired to bring you there, no matter how wrong it may seem, it's right. But we knew that at that time, and we said, no, this is where we want to be, because we knew, and it's not what we expected, but it was where we needed it to be. So later, it turns out that spot is, of course, the spot I put my finger on all those years. It's the exact spot.
That's amazing.
But we knew it, and so that we stayed in that desert, and it was the most unbelievably magic. I have fantastic stories from the time in that desert, lots of them. Yeah, it's a very powerful thing. So
I
it's
often
part
find
of
that
the whole deal.
you have the most magnificent, life-changing, enriching experiences, not from the things that are around you, but from the absence of the things around you.
Yes, but also it was because of the understanding. At that point, we were absolutely living way of impeccability. It was application that brought us there, and not discovery. It was a very different deal, right? It was already there by the time we got there. So that ability to recognize it and know what it is, that helped. I mean, at least then there was a more rough overview conception, and as the years went by, that just got clarified and refined. But the core of it was always there. I mean, I ended up being homeless in Santa Monica. This was the most fantastic experience. I went for very long, but still. And that was absolutely pure application, very deliberate, very specific of way of impact. And we had a blast. It was fantastic. I'd go do it again anytime. It was like a holiday. It was really joyful. I mean, just magical, everything.
I
Long
found
stories.
no, it's beautiful. I could listen to you for hours, and it just made
I've
me
given
think
you
about
the absolute condensed version. I mean, that story, just the desert and the lead up to that. Well, it's in the memoir. I don't know. It's like a 500,000 word story or something. So yeah, long story.
amazing,
You were saying?
absolutely amazing. No, it just made me think about how that it's that choice again. It's that choice about whether I'm going to live my life feeling sorry for myself, or am I going to take everything I can from this experience and just open myself up to what can I learn from this?
Exactly. Toolbox for deliberate living. That deliberate is what changes it. When you live deliberately, we automatically connect to that meaningfulness and purposefulness and significance, right? That's it. Deliberation, it unlocks and enhances meaning and purpose and
It's
significance.
incredible.
MPS,
I am
we like to say.
so
Or
excited
magic
to
per
hear
second, right?
more. All the magic. Bring it on. So
Magic.
I'm so sorry that I'm going to have to say good night because I have to go
Oh, I
cook
have to go
dinner
too. I have to
for
go
the
too.
husband who served me cake
Yeah,
and
no
tea.
problem.
He's going to be wanting
No.
his supper soon.
Yeah,
But I would
yeah.
love
Oh,
to.
give hubby a hug for us. No problem.
Ah,
No
that's
problem.
very kind. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It was just really an incredible experience talking with you, getting to
No
speak a little
problem.
bit with Beena
It's
and
fun. It's
Donna
fun.
as well.
It's fun. It's
And
fun.
yeah, we
Yeah,
will.
I hope you get to speak with them more. Yeah,
I
especially
hope so
Beena. Yeah,
too.
because she didn't get to talk.
Like I said to you, I feel like what you're describing is like university, and I'm still in high school, so I have to just take everything as I'm meant to experience it and when I'm meant to experience it. But yes,
Yes. Yes.
just a
So,
wealth of
again,
experiences.
just real quick before you
Mm.
go, I've given you a lot on way of impeccability, but of course, the program itself, we slow down. It's at your pace, and it's a 4 month program. And typically, not everyone even does it there. Sometimes it goes longer, but that's the idea. It's a 4 month program. So yeah, it's an intense 4 months. So it's a big program. Ideally, you'll probably do it like a college degree, university degree over 3 or 4 years.
Mm.
But we have to, we don't have that luxury for people, unfortunately, and just from an economic factor as well. So it's very tight, very condensed, but you have the tools to now take it and make it a lifelong thing.
And
So yeah, it's a big deal. It's a
is
big deal.
there
Yeah.
more information to be found on
Oh, sure.
Nobelia's
I'll
website?
Yes, on just nobelia.org, there's a link to, on the right hand side there, you'll see a link to the Wave Impeccability Life Change Program. I mean, I can send you the link, but it's right there if you've already gone to the website. Yeah.
I
You'll see
haven't.
it.
If you wouldn't mind sending me the link, I didn't want to
Sure,
make you do any
sure.
work.
But I mean, the
But
website's just nobelia.org, not .com.
yes, I
Nobelia.org.
did see that. Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
magnificent.
I'll send you that. I'll send you that link. You can have a look at some more stuff. So brilliant.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
You
I know
too.
you've still got all the rest of your Sunday. You've been with people from quite early in the morning.
Yeah, but this is late for me now. I'm 11. Let's see, 12, 1, 2. I'm 2, 3 hours away from bed, maybe 4 at the most. So it's late night for me. Even though
Okay.
it's in the day, I sleep at weird hours just to make
To
because
compensate
of
for
the
the time
internationalness of
zones.
Zoom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
understood.
exactly.
You're doing shift
What's
work.
that? Shift work. Yes, exactly.
Still, thank you so
Brilliant.
much. I
Absolute
can't
pleasure.
even
Really, really a
express to you
pleasure.
how grateful I am for your time and all of this knowledge that you've shared with me. Have a
Pleasure
wonderful
to be.
rest of your Sunday, and I will definitely be in touch with you very, very soon.
Oh yeah, we'll connect more with lots of more stuff and lots of fun stuff to come too, just in terms of the group and the program and everything. So yeah,
Oh
very
yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Very cool.
I'm all about the fun.
Yes,
Take care.
yes, yes.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you, Nerena. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Put this off. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant.